You have arrived at Laughbox, the podcast for the Association of Applied and Therapeutic Humor. We are so excited you're here. Join us for episode 126 with Jim Bob Williams, KDB, and special guest, comedian Joey Gaynor. Yay!
Welcome to Laughbox, the official podcast of the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor. I'm Jim Bob Williams.
And I'm KDB.
And today our very special guest is Joey Gaynor.
Woo!
Joey Gaynor.
Hi,
Joey Gaynor
how are
is a
you?
comedy legend.
Yes.
Jim, Katie, it's a pleasure to be here. Well, actually, I'm at home, but it's a pleasure to be, in the Matrix. What is this? The Matrix?
Yeah, we're in the Matrix.
The Matrix or the metaverse?
Ooh, like a little bit of both. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's very exciting.
So Joey, we met in Miami, Arizona at the Miami Loco event, Arts Festival, and you were the headlining comedian, and it was a pleasure to watch you and meet you.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. That was a very fun show.
Perfect. So Joey, tell us about yourself. Who are you?
I started stand-up comedy on March 15th, 1976. That's the first time I ever went on stage. I always enjoyed comedy, always liked comedy. I came to California with my family. I wanted to be a singer. I wanted to be a singer in like a rock band and stuff. It was weird. In 1975, I saw Freddie Prinze live at the Universal Amphitheater. He opened for Helen Reddy. Boy, this is very historical. It's like, and then I saw Belle Starr. So I saw Freddie Prinze, and a lot of people don't remember him, but at the time, he was like the biggest thing on television.
Chico and the Man.
Yeah, Chico and the Man, and he was 23 years old, and he was guest hosting the Tonight Show. This guy was the biggest phenomenon in comedy. So I saw him, and I'd never really seen live stand-up. And then a couple of months later, in October, late October of 75, I went to see Richard Pryor at the old Schubert Theater over in Century City, California. And I saw him 3 nights out of 5 or 6 that he played there. And I was like, wow, I want to find out about it. Somebody told me he worked out at a place called the Comedy Store. And I said, I want to go see him there. And every night, starting in November of 75, practically every night I was at the Comedy Store waiting to see Richard Pryor, not realizing he's on tour. He was promoting Is It Something I Said album. So then just before Christmas Eve, my family and my uncle was a big time ticket broker. So he had tickets to all these events. And we went to this big show that was the KHJ Christmas Cavalcade of Stars. Cher was on it, everybody, Tony and Marie. It was like all these people from television.
Wow.
And and Freddie Prinze again was on it. So I was really getting an itch about comedy. And then I was hanging around the store, hanging around, and getting to know the comedians. And I got the best advice ever before I ever went on stage from Steve Landesberg, the late Steve Landesberg, when I asked him how it's 5 minutes, long enough to get him going. And he said, it's a bleep an eternity if you're not funny. So I said, yeah, I didn't think of that side of it. Can we go talking? So I waited a little more, and then I remember I still have the tape, March 15th, 1976, the first time I ever went on and did stand-up. And unfortunately, Mitzi made me a regular that night. I had 4.5 minutes, and she's putting me on lineups with Jay Leno and
wow.
Oh God. And I'm just bombing all over the place. So I would have a couple of good shows and then tank. Because I didn't know what I was doing. So for about 1.5 years, I struggled, and then finally I made regular again at the store, and that was in 78, and just kept working from there. And I guess I got a lot better at my craft because I started going on the road, and I was opening for people like the Smothers brothers and Richard Pryor and Pete Barbuti, who's, God bless you, Pete, wherever you are, 90 years old. He's in Vegas. He's still working.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, when you get to open for people that you saw on television when you were a kid, it's like mind blowing. It's whoa, 10 years ago, I was watching this guy on television laying on my floor eating chips, in the living room, because I had to be in ninth grade the next day. And now I'm, standing here having a shop talk with these people. So it's quite, especially from my background, because I came from, Newark, New Jersey. I grew up there in the 60s. We grew up in a black, Italian, Irish, Portuguese neighborhood. In my act, I say a black and Italian neighborhood. We called it a spaghetto, which is and it coming from that background, and like the biggest stars that ever came to our neighborhood were the TV wrestlers when they come to the Armory. Yeah, Bruno Sammartino and
Wahoo McDaniel.
yeah, Wahoo McDaniel, Gorilla Monsoon, Argentina Rocca. They'll all be at the Newark Armory this coming Saturday night. If you've ever been a wrestling fan, you've got to be there. Bobo Brazil will take on, and we'd go to that stuff. But they were the biggest thing that came to town. I mean, there were concerts downtown and that, but as a kid, that's what I knew about. The news called us a ghetto after the civil rights riots in 1967. I mean, I lived in the Central Ward, which is where that all exploded one night in 1967 in July one night. And the sky was bright orange. And it was simply because people were being pushed to their limits. Their homes were being, the houses they lived in were being bought up by the city, and they were being forced to move. And it was horrific. But where was I?
So
did you try anything else before comedy?
Yeah, music.
Okay.
I was a singer, and I was in bands, and I was back east. I was in a band. We were actually playing colleges. We were making money, but my family had already decided we were going to move to California.
Oh.
And it's so funny because I was in the same runaround or same circle was developing with, Springsteen was becoming big at the time.
Yep.
And then you had Bon Jovi and Southside Johnny and all these guys, and Willie DeVille, Mick DeVille, and all this East Coast sound was developing. And I was in a really good band, but then I moved to California, and kind of music I want to do wasn't what was popular. Everything here was Led Zeppelin and Ozzy Osbourne, and I wasn't really into. I liked Led Zeppelin to a point, but I say this. I know there's people that love it. What does he mean to a point? After album 3, then like after that, it was like one long song. Anyway, that for me anyway, and I was more into Jackson Browne, the Allman Brothers, all of that.
So let's go back. So you went on the road for 8 years, is that right?
No, I was on the road for about 15 years. And it was really funny because I was going to Houston a lot because I was working in the Southwest. And the owner of the Laugh Stop in Houston, the late great Howard Marcus, one of the greatest people I ever knew, he called me up and he said to me, I understand you want to live in Houston. I said, yeah. He goes, how would you like to live rent free? And I said, okay, that sounds great. And he said, I have 5 rooms at the Allen Park Inn, but I only use 3 every week because usually there's only 3 acts. If it's a duo, then I'm probably using 4. Take one of those rooms and live there, and I'll need, you just come and MC a couple of times a week, and that's your rent. I'm like, oh, great. So I lived in Houston and Whittier, California. I was going back and forth, and it wasn't hard to do them because there was an airline called Muse, the first smokeless airline.
Yeah.
And Muse from LA to Houston was $80. Yeah, 96 round trip.
Can't beat that.
I was flying back and forth because my mom lived in Whittier, so I would come back and forth, and I was flying so much that after a while I had so many miles that I was just get on the plane. And then they would also do a thing if the flight was delayed, they'd pay you it to take the next flight, and I'd wind up getting like a check for $125. It was really
Nice.
weird, man. So for like 3 years back and forth with Muse, but then Howard passed away, and all of that changed. And by then, I was working more in LA again at the Comedy Store and everything. And everything started to blow up pretty good in like 86, 87, 80, well, 87, 88, 89, 90.
Let's talk about the Comedy Store. So
Yeah.
Mitzi was the owner.
Yes, Mitzi was the owner. She ran the Comedy Store. She picked the comics.
And you had a job there.
When I started to work at the Comedy Store as a doorman, and Mitzi would put you on as MC if you were a doorman. Usually you get a shot MCing, and I would get on, and I was learning to MC. And that was sporadic. And then finally in 1978, I got a regular job there where I was working at Sunset, and then I was working at Westwood, and I started to work at Westwood all the time, like run it. I started running it for her and everything. And it was like assistant manager, and I was the MC, and I was the doorman, and I cleaned up, so I was getting paid for a bunch of different jobs. Then we had the strike, and that lasted a few months. And
what year was that?
1979.
And that was a SAG strike?
No. You know what? It wasn't a strike. It was a protest. I don't care what anybody.
Okay, so tell us about it.
She was opening up the main room at the Comedy Store, and guys were running around already complaining that she's going to be charging to go in there, and it's a big room, and the Olympics will be coming, which was 5 years away, and they're like, the Olympics are going to pack the place because there's all this money, and a lot of the guys that were saying this to me, I swear to God, I would look at them and say to myself, you won't even be in this business in 5 years. You could just, there's some cats you could just tell, they're doing this, but they're not doing it. There were some meetings with the comics and everything. And actually, Steve Landesberg, who people don't remember right away, but he was Dietrich on the show, Barney Miller.
He was magnificent.
Yeah, he was a great, funny guy, and very talented actor. We were at a strike meeting. He got up and he goes, I don't know what a lot of you people are striking for. Most of you people won't be in this business in 5 years. and I'm sitting there going, oh wow, he thinks like me. I mean, and I wasn't being being mean. It was just there were some people you could look and say this person's way too fragile to be in this business.
Yeah.
Because they just can't take no for an answer. And I don't mean like in the ambitious business way of not taking no. I mean fragile, like, what did you think of my jokes? And you try and explain to them they're not that funny, or that you're trying to be nice about it, and they're falling apart over it, and you're like, wow, man, you ain't gonna do too good. See, I'm a street kid. I got picked on a lot because I was a fat kid. I was. And that's not shaming myself or anything. I was fat. And so I got picked on for being both Irish and Italian. So I wasn't one thing. So I got picked on by both sides. And then I was also fat. So then after a while, I got kind of immune to it. And instead of going home and being upset and crying about it, I started taking notes. I'm serious. There are jokes in my act that these idiots on the corner said in 1966. Wow. And I'm still doing them today. So, thank you for writing for me. There was a lot of things. Some of them were very dirty, but I've been able to just pull the funny out of it. If you don't say it that way, it's much funnier this way. But it's true. It's street humor. But see, being able to, that kind of rejection, after a while, rejection didn't mean nothing to me. Oh, okay, you don't want me? All right, I'll wait for the next guy. You keep going until you find the person that says yes. But if you're doing it 7 years and nobody says yes, you got to take a hint.
Jim Bob, you were going to ask a question.
I guess that means that's your first exposure to therapeutic humor. You're using humor to address a problem.
Exactly.
I think I got a lot of my I don't think I even realized it when I was doing it. And that's the truth. I just really enjoyed being on stage. And I'll tell you why I liked comedy, I really decided was because when you were in a band, and it never changes, when you're in a band, even if it's your project, you've got guys in the band go, well, I like to play jazz. Well, we don't play jazz. We're doing blues, Yeah, but if we played some jazz, well, why don't you go get a band that plays jazz? And you got to deal with 5 other personalities who each one of these personalities in their head has 19 other personalities. So rather than deal with 100 personalities, I can deal with the 88 in my head on stage. And I really thought about that. I mean, you're up there and you're editing your own machine when you're up there. And you don't have to deal with all of that. And this is another thing that and I don't mean this in a bad way, but people laugh because it really just changes things, even when it's a nervous laugh. And what people do, what I've noticed is what people do now more than they ever did is take on everybody else's misery.
Megan Benson, we've interviewed her, and she's the doctor of fun. And one of the most poignant points that she made was we have a limit to how much complaining we can hear and we can do before we're doing brain damage to the listener and the complainer. And that limit is a cumulative 30 minutes.
Oh, you know what? I didn't know where you were going with that. Interesting, it's 30 minutes. For me, I got to the point where I just decided I don't want to be the complaining. I'm 68. I'm not gonna lie. I get up every morning. I feel like I'm 28 because I don't know if that's delayed adolescence. I don't know what the hell that is. But well, you know what it is? It's what I guess, yeah, comedy does heal because when I was a kid, my father was very sick. So from the time I was about 5 until he passed away when I was 8, he was bedridden at home most of the time, or he was in the VA hospital and then signing himself out at 3 a.m. And what an adventure! Anyway, the 1960s VA hospital. You come in with 2 legs and you leave with no arms. It's just amazing. In there with a sore throat and they amputate your leg. It's an amazing hospital thing. So anyway, I would come home from my mom cooked for the nuns, and the convent was right across the street. I went to St. Joe's School right up the street, and so I was under the microscope constantly. And I would come home, and my father would be in bed, pretty much not that ambulatory, and I would have to do stuff that an orderly in a hospital does, including emptying fluid bottles and things, and preparing medicine and stuff that a 5-6-year-old. I mean, I knew what digitalis was. I knew it wasn't one of Hercules' friends.
Yeah.
And
I thought you rubbed it in your hair, right?
Yeah, it's like, yeah. Oh, that was Vitalis. That was Hercules' other friend. Vitalis. Oh, Digitalis, the dragon. So, and then when he passed away, my mom didn't let me go to the funeral or the wake or anything. So I never had the closure that, and I really didn't have it until I was like, I guess, mad at my father for a long time. He was a binge drinker. So I guess that qualifies alcoholic. He would once a month or every 6-7 weeks, he'd binge drink. But then he got really sick. But he wasn't a pleasant drunk. And I was a little kid. I came along when they were both 40. He was 44, my mom was 40. And so I was a big surprise. I was a TV kid. I grew up on TV. TV was as normal to me as computers are to little kids now. and rock and roll, all of that. You know, my father was a World War II guy. Rock and roll was just loud noise to him. It was cannons going off. That's what people didn't understand. The guys came back from World War II just as PTSD as anybody went to anywhere. But they didn't know that or call it that. They called it shell shock or whatever. And these guys were, you know, beating their wives and drunk, and there's no action, you know. And nobody understood that, or nobody stated that. Now you got guys come back from Afghanistan and whatever, and he's got PTSD, and the people understand what's going on. That's why they screwed the Vietnam vets the worst. Yeah. They dumped on them, the Korean War vets, the Vietnam vets. I did several events for Iraqi war vets against the Iraqi war. We did those shows like at the Whiskey A Go Go and the Roxy and places like that in Hollywood.
Yes. And Joey, I'm going to reel you back to your dad.
I just happened to mention that because I had a friend that just passed away who was an Iraqi war vet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So.
Right.
Well, these are what these guys go through. It's and I mean, I respect anybody who puts the uniform on.
Me too.
I marched against the Vietnam War, but I never spit on a soldier. I never called him a murderer. I never, you're put in a situation. You're 18 years old, 19 years old. They put a gun in your hand. What are you going to do?
Right.
What are you going to do?
Right. So I just want to take you back to the humor healing part. So you're 5, 6 years old. Your dad is there. You're doing what you need to do for him, and you're young. And how did humor heal for you?
I developed a very sick sense of humor, very sick to the point where this is embarrassing, but it is true. If we were out in the snow and somebody was standing there and I look over and I watch them suddenly go 3 feet in the air and land on their butt, and they could be moaning, I'd be laughing. I would just start laughing and I'd have to run away. I've had friends of mine when I was a kid. One guy jumped off of the wall along the side of my house that walled off the Ulrich Sign Company, who made Pepsi-Cola signs. They made hand-painted. So the Pepsi-Cola signs that are now those big metal tops.
Look like a
Pepsi-Cola tops,
yeah.
like a Pepsi-Cola cap. Remember those?
Yeah.
Big ones? Yeah, they used to make those there. Joan Crawford showed up there in a limousine because her husband was Pepsi-Cola, and she went in there and met everybody and whatnot. It's crazy. So I lived next door to that place, and my friend Walter, I remember, jumped off that fence and onto the fence. That was that split my yard. Yes, and he landed on his.
Got it.
He's screaming, but his legs are going like bicycle. On this fence, his legs are going like a bicycle, like he's bicycling, and I'm laughing, and he's vowing to kill me, and I'm just laughing, and he finally got off the fence and he limped all the way home. And but see, I'm just laughing and look, don't fall in the dark. Listen, if we're leaving a room and the light, and I shut the light switch or you shut the light switch, and the next thing I hear is oh, ow, and the lights come on. Don't expect my hand to be there to pick you up. I will be on the other side of the room, doubled up laughing. Because it's like the Three Stooges. The lights go out, then you hear boom, boom, you hear all of that. And the lights come on and they're in a pile, So that happened to my poor mom. The light was shut off and she tripped over the coffee table. Luckily, it wasn't a big, heavy coffee table, but she tripped and the light came on and she was on the floor and I started laughing. And that wasn't a very pleasant day.
So in terms of caregivers and having humor to deal with being a caregiver, you were such a young caregiver. You ended up absorbing sort of a gallows humor, a darker humor to cope with what you were doing.
Yeah, I did. I had a hard time in school sometimes. My mind would be 100 miles away. We made a trip to California in 1964. About 5 months after my dad passed away, we went out to California. We came out to California for about 4, 5, 6 months, and I wasn't going to school, so I was living the good fella's life. My uncle was a bookie. He was involved with the bookie. My other uncle. My other uncle worked in the studios. He worked on Elvis movies. He really did.
Ooh,
He was, and stuff like that. He was a prop guy and a laborer, and he did he built sets and all of that stuff. And my uncle had a restaurant bar, and I was hanging around in there when I was like 8 years old. So I'm walking around,
yeah.
Charlie's Dame in the seventh, 54, So anyway, a little kid around this shit, and it's like Goodfellas. It really was. It
Oh,
really, really was. And without the gunplay, there was no gunplay. This was all degenerate gamblers. And I'm around that. I'm not going to school. I started singing in nightclubs in California when I was 8 years old. And so it was great. I was like this.
Wow.
Yeah, I was
okay.
like this novelty. So, and at the time, "Hello Dolly" was a big hit song by Louis Armstrong.
Never have.
So I would, "Hello Dolly, well, hello Dolly," and I'm a little kid doing Louis Armstrong, and people, "Oh, look at that," and I'd sing in Italian and all that stuff. And
Wow.
you're a kid, you don't know, and
Right.
but then after that, I didn't. The only thing I ever had trouble with was algeo, which is algebra and geometry mixed together into a program for kids that don't understand regular math. So they mix this together to make it worse.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that sounds perfectly
Yeah, it's like
logical.
you have a peanut allergy. Okay, this is peanut butter made with peanuts, peanuts and more peanuts.
Right.
Stupid. But anyway, yeah,
Joey,
go ahead.
you have this massive history you've worked with Robin Williams, you've worked with Richard Pryor, you've worked with Bill Hicks. I mean,
Yeah.
in terms of comedians and trauma, we're hearing you have plenty of trauma in your background, and being a caregiver as a young child is traumatic.
It's very
And
dramatic. I didn't realize that till I was much older.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
and which gave you your style. Can you kind of give us a window into maybe a couple of those people that you were so fortunate to work with? Like you did improv, is that right? You did improv
yeah,
with Robin?
yeah, the Comedy Store Players
Hmm.
was a great group of improv actors, and I was involved with them, and I was involved with some really, really good people there. There was Robin Williams. This is in the beginning. There was Robin when he came down from San Francisco. He immediately was part of the Players. Andy Garcia was part of the Players.
Hmm.
My friend Freddie Asparagus, he and I were a comedy team. We were really good together. And you know what? We could have been stars because we used to fight like hell off screen, off stage.
Oh, it's just like being in jury.
Hey, how are you? Hey, off screen, you dirty. I hope you die. But but no, he was a bartender in Three Amigos. He was
Hmm.
Baby Hernandez in Havana with Robert Redford. He was a big, stout, heavy Latino fella, and he did a lot of character work. But together we did I was the manager, he was the wrestler, and we would do this wrestling thing where he didn't know a lot of English, and it's obviously I'm taking advantage of him. Hey, tell him about the place I gave you to live. He gave me a place to live behind his house. And keeping that station wagon up. Yeah, put a window. And it was so, today we'd be considered so racist, but I've showed it to friends of mine and Latino friends of mine, and they laugh their ass off.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yes.
It's funny. I
Yeah.
think there's a comedian, Tony Brown, who was at the show also. I don't know if you saw Tony. He was one of the comedians in Miami.
Hmm.
And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, and he has a great joke. And I'm quoting his joke. He said, "I used to hate white people till white people started to hate white people. Now it's not fun anymore." I just think that's hysterical. I find that hysterical. And I also find that that's a problem that people have today. We got so divided. And so, I like ethnic humor. I don't like racial humor. There's a big difference.
That's right.
If I talk about being Irish, You know, I have a joke. I say I'm Irish and Italian. I also have Latino blood, but that's on the bumper of my car, and that's a police matter. And I don't want any innocent people getting involved. And there is a big difference in racial humor and ethnic humor.
Yeah.
And when I talk about my ethnic background, my friends that were ethnic different that were from the Virgin Islands, Newark was a real melting pot. See, that's the thing. We don't see that anymore. This was a melting pot. I went from an integrated progressive Catholic school where we had black kids, white kids, all kinds of Latino kids. There were Mexicans in New Jersey. We had Mexican kids, kids from Guatemala, Argentina, Puerto Rico, Cuba, a lot of Cubans that, you know, it was the 60s. There was a lot of Cuban kids. They all came over, obviously, to get away from the beard with their families. Um, we just had, like I said, people from the Virgin Islands. We had everybody. So and then I went to an all black school for half a semester because the city bought our house in Newark and we had to move.
So we know that comedy can come from people's trauma, but off stage, did you all talk
Yes.
about some of your histories?
Oh man, I'm so lucky with Robin. We would get into conversations about how it's not trauma in not so much, but the trauma. There's I don't know if you call it trauma, what you call it, but you're in a club, you do a show, 500 people, 300 people, 200, whatever it is, and you have a great time, and then you go back to your hotel room, and if you're alone, it's crushing. The silence is crushing because you were just in all this energy, and now, and that's why people stay up and party till 3, 4 in the morning. You're so wired up, and Robin and I would talk about that. I never got with Robin. I didn't get deep like I did with Richard. Richard, we would talk about growing up and everything, and he talked about his background.
Yeah, because
he
grew up in a basically a house of ill repute, right? So
yes,
got exposed to a lot of interesting characters.
Man, he said he had to just laugh shit off. Pardon me, because the stuff he saw, gunplay, everything going on. You know, I mean, and he was a little kid when this was happening, and having parents yelling and fighting and just it's a very rough childhood for him. And you know, we talked about growing up. He grew up in a ghetto situation, and we talked about it. And he used to say to me, "Yeah, but you were white, you could walk out." We used to laugh about that.
Right.
I said, "Yeah, I could just walk out." Yeah, when the West Side Gang was coming over to beat us all up, I had to walk. Yeah. That was another thing when I was a kid. The movie West Side Story came out, and we were all like 5 years old, 1960, 1959, 4 or 5 years old. And we called ourselves the Jets. And we were running around yelling, "We're the Jets, we're the new gang, the Jets." And one night we're all sitting out there on the sidewalk. Everybody's out of the house. It's hot in the summertime. And like 5, 6 black kids came around a corner, and they were a gang, and they were looking for the Jets. And we're like little kids, and all of our parents are there. And this is a true story. We went, "We're the Jets." They just looked at us. Looked at each other. What? "Yeah, we're the Jets, man. Yeah, we're the Jets." They just went, "Never mind." Back around the corner. Later on, when I got older, I got to know some of those kids because they were maybe 7 or 8 years older than us, you know.
Yeah.
And I got to know them, and man, they were like, "Man, you're the Jets." We were coming around here looking, thought there was some new gang in the block, you know. But I got to be friends with all those folks.
That should be a scene in a movie.
Yeah.
It was hysterical. I mean, I didn't even see West Side Story until I was about 15. I mean, when I saw it in the movies, you know, it never played on TV back then. There was no streaming service. So we had to go to the movies to see old movies, stuff that never played on TV. I remember 10 Commandments, had to go to the movies. You had to go. What was some of the other one? Ben Hur.
Hmm.
But yeah, that was one that you had to wait till it came around to go see it in the movies.
So I have two more people to ask you about.
Yes.
One is very deep in my heart, Andy Kaufman and George Carlin.
But what Carl and I could tell you, I only had a couple of times I talked to George. It was very brief, and he told me, "Don't worry about making everybody love you. Concentrate on between 2 and 4% of the population, because that's all you need."
Interesting.
Yeah, if you got 2 to 4% of the population buying your, well, we said albums at the time, buying your albums or your shirts or your coffee mugs, or they're listening to your, when they watch you on TV, they come to your shows. You're doing fine. That's a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of people. Yeah, most of Richard's comedy came from his upbringing.
Yes.
His characterizations, because he he is making fun of the people the way he saw them exactly doing things.
Yeah.
He and I used to talk about that, because I like to make fun of people the way I remember them, which is so goofy. And Andy is another guy that would watch people and come up with characterizations. And Andy and I did a lot of, I refereed wrestling for him when he would wrestle women, when Bob Smooth's arm was broken and couldn't do it.
Those days. Oh.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. I'd done this on stage. I hadn't done it in years. And Andy used to say to me, whenever you're on the road, whenever you're away, just tell them that you're from Hollywood. Just tell them. Just say, I'm from Hollywood, and I said, but you do that. He goes, it doesn't matter. Where do you live? I said, well, yeah, you live in Hollywood, so you're from Hollywood. And so I've done that a few times, and I watch people's faces. It's very funny. I don't like doing things he did, but he gave me permission to do certain things. And working with him was amazing, because there were rules. You don't tell anybody what we're doing. You don't break character. Once you're in character, do not break character. So when I would get in character to be the referee, and obviously nefarious things would happen, and people would come up to me, I would not break character. I would stay in the They go, but Joey, this is all a fake. What are you doing? I go, you don't understand. This is the International Intergender Wrestling Federation. I am an official. You do not talk to me that way. And they would, who was it? Mike Binder came up to me, and he said something, and I did the same thing, and he just walked away laughing, and he went, this guy won't break character. So that was the thing with Andy. Whatever we did, you just didn't break character. And especially that was very helpful when I got into wrestling, when I became a wrestling manager and stuff, which is another, see, wrestling and comedy are so good for people to get their get all that angst out. Because at wrestling, when they're yelling at me, I was always a bad guy manager. I was a heel. And when they're yelling at me, they're not yelling at me. They're yelling at their boss, their brother-in-law, some guy that cut them off in a freeway,
Very therapeutic.
Right. It's very therapeutic. It's all that anger and aggression out. And the funniest thing was, I would do the wrestling shows, and I would be the biggest heel. I mean, I would come out with my protege, the guy I'm managing, and I would have one of those instant photo cameras, those Polaroids. And you take the picture, it pops right out, you hold it up, and in a couple of seconds you have a picture. We'd come out, and he'd pick a kid up on his shoulder, and I'd take the picture and give him the picture. We do that a couple of times. But then once he got in the ring, he was a bad guy. And then to finish the match, I would get the referee's attention. And then when he would come over, I would take the camera and click the flash, and he'd grab his eyes, and now he can't see. And I'd give my wrestler a stun gun, and he'd crackle the stun gun and then pretend he's stunning the guy with it. He's laid out and shaking him. And then the referee finally gets his eyeballs back, and my guy pins the guy, And the people, especially when we did the lucha shows, the lucha.
Oh, the Mexican here.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
yeah. The one time they surrounded the car and wouldn't let us out of the parking lot. That was scary.
All the fans?
Yeah,
Oh,
they
wow.
were pissed. And the nonis, the older ladies would call me Diablo, and they would have
They took it very seriously.
Oh yeah, I mean it's that's why the masks and everything. But I took it seriously too. That was the thing, because I knew if I gave a true performance, these people are going to be happy about it, and that's what they came to do.
Okay. Now, question. Then I have two questions. But my first question for you is this. Okay. On any given day of the week, okay, the way I like to ask is, what difference does humor make on Thursday? Like, what would you want somebody to know about humor, about comedy, that they should be applying every day?
Since I'm a little kid, I know this sounds nuts, but I always said if I can get through the day somewhere along the line and have a laugh somewhere, it wouldn't be so bad. And I had to grow up and get mature and understand the balance, but you can't just laugh at everything. I'm very lucky. I don't have the worries that a lot of other people have, but I still have my own worries and family that I worry about, and people that are sick. And that's a very good question. You need a break. You need a break. Look, I took care of my mom too. She was in hospice. We always tried to take care of each other. Look, I went through the Cuban Missile Crisis when I was a kid. We didn't know what was going to happen, but we got the true story. We weren't listening to so-and-so said, and I heard, that
right. Which is where the humor comes in.
Yeah.
Give your brain a break and just find something funny.
Seriously, go on YouTube, watch a Mary Tyler Moore.
Right. I Love Lucy. That's my go-to.
Yeah. I like when people go, "Oh, well, that's old." It's not old. Just watch it. You can watch. Listen, if you think something is too old, I can prove it's not. You watch the Marx Brothers film, Horse Feathers.
Night at the Opera, Day at the Races.
No, not
Duck Soup.
Duck Soup. That's the one. If you watch Duck Soup, which is 1934, this is a 90-year-old movie. Yeah. Yet if you watch it, you will sit there and go, "Oh wow, man, that's how it is today."
Yeah.
There is nothing different about this that film. Yeah. And there's a Three Stooges short where Moe is making fun of Hitler.
Yeah, those nasty ratsies or something.
Yeah, nasty ratsies or something like that. Yeah. And Hitler put a hit out on him. Yeah. Hitler wanted that Jew shot.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, man, he would get him. He wanted Charlie Chaplin killed for making.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he didn't have much of a sense of humor. Then again, he wasn't much of a painter either.
Well, he was a wonderful painter. 2 coats in one afternoon. But
yeah. I
stealing that from Bell Brooks. Sorry.
It's so funny, man. I was at the Aerospace Museum, the Aeronautical Museum here in Tucson, where they have all the old planes from World War II, etc. And I passed one of our fighter planes from World War II, and on the side of it, they would put how many they shot down. They would put SWAT stickers. And then this guy had like 9 SWAT stickers, 3 Italian planes he took down, a Japanese plane. Apparently, this fighter plane saw a multitude of action. And there was an American flag. There was a plane with no markings that flew into American airspace, and he had to take it down. And and it turned out when they were able to pull the wreckage, it was a saboteur. It was an American plane, but it was a possible saboteur. So
wow,
yeah, but it was amazing to see that, because when I see SWAT stickers, I just get sick. It's horrifying. See, that's something that made me smile. Like, hey, all right, man, he took down 9 of them. All right. I had an uncle in World War II that fought in North Africa against Rommel, and he told me They took out quite a few tanks. It's funny, things like that can make you much more happier than you are that day. So,
That's true.
No,
thank God it was us that won. That's the whole
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
A couple things are, one is, I thought when you noted that if you can go over the day and think of something that made you happy, made you laugh, that's part of keeping a mindfulness journal. That's something mental health professionals will recommend. And I was wondering to myself, and I'll ask just to comment on this, the difference between ethnic and racist humor.
I grew up in an Italian household, and of course, growing up in an Italian household, we would listen to Sinatra. Of course, you had to know the three S's. Sinatra, spaghetti, cement. That's part of being Italian. Now, a racial joke would be two guineas walk into a bar. I mean, you're using slurs. It would be two N words, or this N word and the word for Polish, and the word. I don't like.
Oh, who was the comic that did Spaghetti and Other Delights? Pat, all of his comedy was based on his experiences growing up in an Italian family. He did.
Pat Cooper.
Pat Cooper, yeah.
Pat Cooper. No, Pat Cooper was great.
Yeah, but that, to me, that's ethnic humor because
right.
There's a sense of love on it, and
he's
recognizing the silliness and enjoying
that's ethnic humor. When you get into, I talk about white people, I talk about black people, I talk about everybody. I'm an equal opportunity a-hole, but again, I'll give you an example. People are afraid to do trans jokes or whatever. I'm not.
And if I may say, we had a trans comic at Miami Loco. So that was also really great that everybody was represented, it felt like.
Yeah. I have a joke because everybody's afraid to do anything. I say that if a man, when it comes to trans, if a man really wants to become a woman and decides to do that and goes through with it, I mean, that takes balls, literally. So but I have a joke that I wrote where I said two non-binaries walk up to a nightclub, and the non-binary says to the doorman, "What's the cover charge?" And the doorman says to the non-binaries, "There's no cover tonight. It's you might be a ladies' night." So now I've done that joke, and I have had non-binary people come up to me and literally, I'm not kidding, no one's complained. They've said, "Thank you for including us." And I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "I try to include everybody." And that's why, like a lot of times at the beginning of my act, I'll say, "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen," and all the hybrids. I just don't have time to go through the alphabet. So
right. And what you do is include everybody. Right. And what you do is lift up people. Even if it's funny, you're still lifting up that group.
Yeah, it's not look, human beings are human beings. People are going to be who they are. They're going to do, and I don't really care. Pat Cooper, you brought him up, and he had a great line at the end of his act. He goes, "I make fun of people because," he goes, "I'm not ashamed of who I am." And then he'd say, "And ladies and gentlemen, don't be ashamed of who you are. I'm not ashamed of who you are." And that used to crack me up. Yeah, Pat was great. And Dave Chappelle has broken a lot of ground. They say he's punching down. He says he's not. And that's between him and the trans community.
Do you want to give a plug for your podcast?
We are starting a new podcast. My new podcast. Right now it's called The Full Gaynor. It's based in professional wrestling. And we talk about everything, because when you talk about pro wrestling, everything falls in. It's very funny. I call pro wrestling the international language. You could be sitting in an airport with somebody from Japan, and you're the only one sitting there waiting for the flight. And, he might speak a little English. You're trying to have a conversation, and all you got to say is, "Oh, yeah, well, Ricky Dozan. Ah, hi, Ricky Dozan. Ah, yes. Hey, Ichiban." Yeah, he was the greatest Japanese wrestler. So now you pick, or if you're talking to somebody from Italy, you pick an Italian wrestler and you mention his name, and they know who it is, because there's different. And you start almost every television show I ever worked on, I would meet the producer or something, and they'd say, "So you're from Jersey?" I'd say, "Yeah." They'd say, "Excuse me, yeah, I'm from Boston," and I'd go, "Ricky Sexton, 242 pounds, out of Boston, Massachusetts." And they go, "How do you know that?"
That's great.
I go, "Because wrestling is the international language, so you can start a conversation through wrestling. It's really easy." And yeah, that's something I found over the years.
And I have one more question about Westwood,
Oh
which is
yeah,
the comedy store in Westwood.
yeah,
All of you guys, all of you people, ladies and gentlemen, were working through your stuff, using comedy, making it a career. And I was watching the I Am Kinison documentary. I didn't get to finish it, but I was trying to get to your parts. But one of the most beautiful things that came out of that documentary so far and what I've seen was what Mitzi did for comics at the
yeah,
Westwood. Can you talk about that just briefly?
yeah. The Westwood Comedy Store opened in 1975. I was always going to Sunset, and then when I started doing regular spots, Mitzi was sending me to Westwood. And at first, it was tedious because there wasn't much of a crowd there. It was work building. But then over the summer in '76, summer it built, and it was quite a place. And then it became really strong. She lost her lease on the Sunset store for about 6 months while she was buying the building. So Art LeBeau had the lease on the Sunset room, the original room.
But she
Anyway,
she made a
but
space for
yeah, but
people to grow.
people started coming there, and then people on the west side realized, hey, I don't have to go all the way to Sunset. I can go right here on Westwood Boulevard. And
She also had like Sam Kinison lived there, right?
yeah, well,
And
well, I got Sam a job there with his brother because
okay,
they were going to be the doormen and
got
all,
it.
and they didn't have a place to live. And I told them, look, after you put the lights out, you can sleep on the stage. I said, get yourself some blankets and that. You can sleep on the stage. I said, there's a kitchen back there. You can make yourself something to eat. They did. They homesteaded there for several weeks. I it wasn't the first guy to do that. There was another guy before that who would stay there and taught me all about it. And I used to lock up at night, so I was going to go on the road and everything, and I really didn't want to be a doorman anymore. And that was in 1982, and then they took it over, and most of '83, and then when I was working on the road a lot, but then I had breaks in '83, and Mitzi was asking me, "Please help me on Westwood," so I'd go over and help out a little bit. I would do a couple of nights, and but Sam and Kevin uh, took it over, and that's when Sam started to develop his very dark style because Dice Clay was working out there, and everybody would hang around afterwards and talk about their acts and talk with each other, and Dice he helped Sam develop his character. He said, "Look, if you're going to go on with the coat and everything, make it a character." Make it into something, not just go up there screaming, make it into
Oh, I gotcha.
right. And so '83, Sam started to develop that dark style, and it continued through '84, and in '85, that Magic Summer just boom. Might have been '84, might have been the Magic Summer, but he just exploded. And
And let's come back to you. So if you had one thing to say to anyone of your choice, whether it be an up and coming comic, someone with trauma trying to find the funny, trying to get out of it, or find ways to cope, or any sort of subject of your choice in there, what would you tell people? What kind of advice would you give people?
well, only take seriously what needs to be taken actually seriously. The rest of it is just you're letting people put sawdust all over your birthday cake. I mean, I had to stop doing that. I had to stop worrying about other people's baloney because you just start absorbing all that. You start taking it on like it's part of your thing.
Yeah.
Also, no matter how bad things are, and I know I don't want to sound cliche, like, hey, put on a happy face. no matter how bad things are, uh, look for someone to talk to. Look for somebody to help you. Don't sit there and decide that the world sucks and everybody hates you and all that. I mean, I've been there. I've been where I felt I had nobody wanted to help me. Nobody cared about me. And I found that to be wrong, because if I'm not reaching out, there's nobody else is going to be able to see my hand, you know? So it's
And
like
as your new best friend,
yes.
I'm here.
Well, it's true though. I mean, you know, you're if you go and isolation is a big thing. It's something in programs like Alcoholics Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous, etc. Isolation. If you're writing and you're being productive and you're isolating because you need to be, you know, alone so you can work, that's one thing. But if you're isolating and sitting there thinking about everything and just getting more aggravated, and you're eating 3 bags of chips a day, and you're drinking 3 gallons of soda, or you're getting loaded constantly, even if it's just pot. I mean, you gotta break away from that. Don't do that. Don't isolate. Talk to people. Go out. Go see your friends. Don't be miserable when you get around your friends. Just tell them, yeah, I got a whole lot of shit going on, but it'll pass. You know, look, they'll say, well, what's going on? Oh, this and that. You have no idea where the help can come from. And I've learned by keeping my cool about it. Look, when you're home and you want to yell, yeah, yell. You know, you want to punch the pillows, go for it. Yeah, just don't take that outside. You'll find you get more flies with honey than you do with poop.
That's for sure. Yes.
The old expression, but it's true.
Yeah.
It's very true.
That's really good advice.
The only thing that bothered me is, what am I going to do with flies once I got them? Well, I'm in the fly collecting business.
Now you got it. Now you got to have a frog. Now you got to have a frog. You open a flea circus. No, you can't. That'd be a fly circus. That would
be a fly circus.
Fly circus.
Yeah.
So, Joey, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I enjoyed our conversation and everything. I will be in the Burnout Turnout Show, Steve Black's Burnout Turnout Show, which is a great kind of a talk show. It's pretty cool, actually. He does a live talk show.
How cool.
Yeah.
Burnout Turnout sounds like a great title.
It is. It's the Burnout Turnout. So we hope all the burnouts will turn out.
This has been Laughbox, the official podcast of the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor. We'd like to thank Joey Gaynor.
Yay!
For being our guest today. And look for the full Gaynor podcast coming out soon. And Joey, that'll be on all major podcast platforms.
Yeah, it'll be we'll be through Anchor and Spotify and all of that stuff.
Great.
And it'll probably also be on the Tucson-comedy.com website.
Oh, great.
I don't know if you know the 185 joke.
No.
185 so-and-so's walk into a bar.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I made that. That was written by me, Andy Garcia, Brian Bradley, Lou Beck, and Freddie Asparagus. We created that.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah.
I am in awe.
Now it's like a normal improv thing.
Yeah.
And,
man. So thank you, Joey. This has been a huge pleasure.
Thank you, Katie and Jim Bob. I really enjoyed it. It was great talking to you again. And I think that comedy is very important for mental health and just generally. Otherwise, this whole world will go crazy.
That's for sure. Right. Yeah.
So,
thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you for joining us for episode 126 with Jim Bob Williams, Katie B, and our special guest, Joey Gaynor. Yay! Thank you very much.
Laughbox is a production of the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor. Visit us online at www.aath.org. Follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Music by Gary Rubio. For more information, www.garyrubiomusic.com.